Right. Welcome to the session. So last Sunday, I was unable to conduct the lecture because uh, I had a bad cough. Because of that, I was unable to conduct the afternoon session. So I decided to do a small recording for that. So today I'm going to discuss few important points, some practicals, and I'll do a small discussion for your continuous assessment. So let me share the screen first. So as I told you, we have done few practicals so far. So today my main intention is explaining the user because user input is not a specific fundamental which we can use only for a specific task. We can combine it with each and every code and we can continue the user interaction with inputs and outputs. So you already know how to handle outputs. So if you want to send something to the user, if you want to print something to the user, so you can use print statement. So in Java, we use system.out println. So you already know how to handle these outputs. But we have something called inputs. For an example, let's assume if you want to create a small calculator, first of all, you want to take input from outside. So you have to ask some numbers and some operators. Accordingly, you will do the calculation. So let's see, you want to add 2 plus 2. So when it comes to 2 plus 2, uh, we give 2 and then we give plus, again we give 2 and then equal. So those are the usual inputs we give. So based on that, you can get an output. So like that, for every system, for every software website, we use inputs. Some systems are there, no need input if they don't want to interact with users, if it doesn't care about user inputs, then no worries. You can ignore that input part, but most of the time, when we use a system, we take user input. If I take another example, ATM. So we all use ATM. So in ATM, what are the inputs it takes? So now you have to think as a system. So you first ask user to enter the card. So that will be the first input you're asking from user. And if it is correct, it asks you to enter the PIN. And then it will show the menu. So you have to give an input, you have to give your choice from the menu. And accordingly, it will ask the amount that you want to withdraw. So like that, it will take inputs from you to continue the process. Until we finish the transaction, y'all can communicate with the system. Most of the time, to communicate with our user, we use inputs and output. And especially if you're focusing on taking inputs from user to handle the code thing, you use inputs. දැන් මේ input කියන්නේ හරිම important concept එකක්. හරිනම් ඒක මුලදිම තමයි උගන්වන්න ඕනේ. මම චුට්ටක් ඒක පස්සට තියාගත්තා. ඒකේ reason එක තමයි අපි input එකක් handle කරන්න පොඩි lines කීපයක් maintain කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒකට පොඩි overall knowledge එකක් ඕනේ. ඒ නිසා මම සාමාන්‍යයෙන් input එක ඔයගලන්ට explain කරන්නේ අන්තිම stage එකේදී. So that is the thing that the reason behind taking input in this lesson. අපි inputs කියලා කියන්නේ userත් එක්ක communicate කරන්න, userත් එක්ක interact වෙන්න පාවිච්චි කරන එක ක්‍රමයක්. දැන් අපි calculate එකක් ගත්තොත් example එකක් විදිහට calculate එකක ඔයා calculate එකට දෙන්න ඕනේ ඔයාට වෙන්න ඕන දේ. example එකක් විදිහට ඔයාට 2 and 2 මේ දෙක එකතු කරන්න ඕනේ. දෙකට දෙකක් එකතු කරන්න ඕනේ. So ඔයා කොහොමද ඒක කරන්නේ? මුලින්ම 2 කියන එක press කරනවා keyboard එකේ. ඊට පස්සේ plus කියන එක press කරනවා. ඊට පස්සේ ආයි 2 කියන එක press කරනවා. ඊට පස්සේ equal. දැන් මෙතනදි වෙන්නේ අපි inputs දෙනවා. ඔයා press කරනවා, ඔයා enter කරනවා කියලා කියන්නේ ඔයා input එකක් system එකට දෙනවා. එතකොට system එක මොකද කරන්නේ? ඒ inputs අරගෙන තමයි logic එක develop කරන්නේ. ආට කියනවා ඔයාගේ card එක enter කරන්න කියලා. දැන් card එක enter කරනවා කියලා කියන්නේ ඔයා external දෙයක් enter කරනවා. ඒක input එකක්. card එක හරින pin එක enter කරන්න කියනවා. ඒ හැමදේම inputs. මේ systems ගොඩක් වෙලාවට 90%ක්ම systems userගෙන් inputs ගන්නවා. එතකොට ගොඩක් interactive. user interact වෙනවා, එයා forms fill කරනවා, එයාට menu bar එකෙන් දේවල් select කරන්න පුළුවන්. website එකක් ගත්තත් website එකේ ඔයාට enter කරන්න දේවල් තියෙනවා. ඔයා තමයි menu bar එකෙන් ඔයාට යන්න ඕනේ කොහෙද කියලා decide කරන්නේ. forms තියෙනවා නම් ඒවා fill කරන්නේ, ඔයාට like කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඊට පස්සේ අපි අර එක එක reactions දෙනවා, comments දෙනවා. ඔය ඔක්කොම inputs. එතකොට ඔයා වෙබ්සයිට්ස් 10ක් අරගෙන මේ 10 ඇනලයිස් කරොත් 10න් 10ම වගේ ඉන්පුට්ස් ගන්නවා. ඉඳලා හිටලා තමයි එහෙම වෙබ්සයිට්ස් ඇප්ලිකේෂන්ස් නැහැ ඇත්තටම හොයා ගන්න අමාරුයි. Rarely we can see one or two website or a software which not taking things from user. But 99% of these websites, softwares, applications using user inputs. So this is very important thing to consider. So I'll tell you how to work with user inputs, how to handle user inputs, how to develop the same concept. So far we have discussed different concepts. We know how to print something. We know how to do a small calculation. We know how to do a comparison. We know how to do decision making. We know how to do repetition. So we know all these fundamentals. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take user inputs. With that, I'm going to slowly improve your knowledge with all these fundamentals. Right. So you can open Notepad++ and then start a new file. Go to File and click on New. Right. So here we have the file section. It's better if you can save the file before you start the code, because when you save it as a Java file, y'all can see Java features on the file. When you do keywords, when you do brackets, when you do decisions, everything, they will highlight in different colors. So you can see these colors only if you change your password, only if you change your file using this Java extension. ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් මේ notepad කියන්නේ අපි code එකක් type කරන්න පාවිච්චි කරන tool එකක්. ඔයා ඒක Java ෆයිල් එකක් විදිහට මුලින්ම සේව් කරලා තමයි කෝඩ් එක ලියන්න පටන් ගන්න ඕනේ. මොකද Java වලටම ස්පෙෂලායිස් වෙච්ච color codes දේවල් තියෙනවා මේ tool එක ඇතුලේ. ඒ ටික එන්නේ ඔයා Java ෆයිල් එකක් විදිහට සේව් කරලා වැඩේ පටන් ගත්තොත් විතරයි. Right. So you can go to the documents or desktop. I previously asked you to create a folder in your desktop or documents. So you can go to that place and you can choose your Java folder, and you can give a name. So we are going to practice user input. So I'm going to give user input 1 because I have an intention to practice few types of inputs. So because of that, I'm going to give user input 1 and then change the file type as Java source file. So before you save, before you quit this page, it's better if you can copy the file name because you need this file name for the class. So you can copy the file name and then click on save. So now you're in the page, you can start developing the code. So let's start a small class because you know before you write everything, you have to write the class and the method. So this is the class. Inside the class, I'm going to write the main method. So at the moment, we have only one class and one method. But as I told you, we can maintain several classes, several methods in your particular code. දැන් අපි industry එකට ගිහිල්ලා software එකක් develop කරනකොට එතන මේ වගේ පොඩි ප්‍රොබ්ලම් එකක් නෙමෙයි. දැන් නම් අපිට ප්‍රොබ්ලම් එක sentences දෙක තුනක් අරන් explain කරන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රි එකේදී ඔයාලට හම්බෙන ප්‍රොබ්ලම් එක හරි complicated. සමහර වෙලාවට මේ ප්‍රොබ්ලම් එකෙන් කියන්නේ මොකක්ද කියලාවත් අපිට හිතා ගන්න බෑ. So that complexity is there. එතකොට ගොඩක් වෙලාවට අපි කරන්නේ අර ලොකු ප්‍රොබ්ලම් එක කම්ප්ලෙක්ස් ප්‍රොබ්ලම් එක පොඩි පොඩි පීසස් වලට බ්‍රේක් ඩවුන් කරනවා. බ්‍රේක් ඩවුන් කරලා ක්ලාසස් ගොඩාක් හදනවා ඒ පොඩි පොඩි පීසස් ඇඩ්‍රස් කරන්න. දැන් කැල්කියුලේටර් එක ගත්තොත් එක්සාම්පල් එක විදියට ඔයා දන්නවා කැල්කියුලේටර් එකෙන් සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපිට ඔපරේෂන්ස් කීපයක් කරන්න පුළුවන්. අපිට එකතු කරන්න පුළුවන්, අඩු කරන්න පුළුවන්, මල්ටිප්ලයි කරන්න පුළුවන්, ඊට පස්සේ අපිට ඩිවයිඩ් කරන්න පුළුවන්, මේ දේවල් කරන්න පුළුවන්. Subtraction, addition, multiplication, division. You can do all these things with a calculator. දැන් එක හරි complicated. numbers දෙකක් එකතු කරන්න සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ඔයාලට lines 20ක් 30ක් ලියන්න ඕනේ. මුලින්ම user ගේ number එකක් ගන්න ඕනේ, තව number එකක් ගන්න ඕනේ, ඊට පස්සේ operate එක ගන්න ඕනේ, ඊට පස්සේ ඔයා calculate කරන්න ඕනේ, ඊට පස්සේ ඒක print කරන්න ඕනේ. දැන් subtraction කරන්නත් එහෙමයි. ඒ වගේම lines ගොඩක් ඕනේ. multiplication එක කරන්නත් ඒ වගේම lines ගොඩක් ඕනේ. divide කරන්නත් lines ගොඩක් ඕනේ. ඉතින් මොකද කරන්නේ අපිට මේවට separate classes ගන්න පුළුවන්. මේක class A. class A එකෙන් කරන්නේ අපි add කරන process එක විතරයි. මේක class B. class B එකෙන් අපි කරන්නේ අඩු කරන එක. class C. class C එකෙන් අපි කරන්නේ multiply කරන එක. class D. class D එකෙන් අපි කරන්නේ divide කරන එක. මේවා separate classes. මේ class එකක් කියන්නේ මෙන්න මේ වගේ රවුමක්. මේක ඇතුලේ තමයි අදාළ code එක වෙන එක separate කරලා තියෙන්නේ. පොඩි පොඩි කැලි වලට divide කරලා. ඊට පස්සේ මේ ඔක්කොගේම output එක අපි එක class එකකට ගන්න ඕනේ. ඒක through තමයි print කරන්නේ. කවුරු හරි add කරන්න කිව්වොත් අපි මේ add කරන එක ඇතුලේ ඒක perform කරලා output එක දෙනවා main class එකට. main class එක through තමයි ඒක print කරන්නේ. දැන් මට කියන්න ඕනේ එකම code එක ඇතුලේ classes ගොඩක් ඔයාට තියෙන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි මේ classes අතරින් එක class එකක් main class එකක් විදියට තියෙන්න ඕනේ. මං කිව්වා වගේ මේ classes වල outputs අන්තිමට print වෙන්නේ මේ main class එක හරහා. ඕක තමයි ඔයා practically program එකක් develop කරන්න යනවා නම් ඔයාට face කරන්න වෙන situation එක. But now, no need to focus about these things. We are just focusing on how these codes and fundamental things are working. Because of that reason, I'm consider only this main class. එක නිසා තමයි මම එක class එකක් විතරක් ගන්නෙ. එක තමයි main class එක. අපි හිතනවා එක තමයි main class එක කියලා. ඒ වගේම තමයි methods. දැන් classes ගොඩක් තියෙනවා නම් හැම class එකක් ඇතුළෙම method එකක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ. මොකද ක්ලාස් එකෙන් ඇක්ෂන් එක වුණාට ඒක එළියට පුල් කරන්නේ අර මෙතඩ් එකෙන්. එතකොට ක්ලාසස් ගොඩක් තියෙනවා නම් හැම ක්ලාස් එකක් ඇතුළෙම මෙතඩ් එකක් තියෙනවා. හැබැයි අර කිව්වා වගේ මේන් මෙතඩ් එකක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ මේ හැම දෙයක් ෆයිනලි අවුට්පුට් එක දෙන්න. දැන් ඔයා තේරුම් ගන්න ඕනේ එකම කෝඩ් එකේ ක්ලාසස් ගොඩක් තියෙන්න පුළුවන්, මෙතඩ්ස් ගොඩක් තියෙන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි එක මේන් ක්ලාස් එකකුයි එක මේන් මෙතඩ් එකකුයි තියෙන්න ඕනේ. That is compulsory. So when it comes to computer programming, uh, we have multiple classes in one particular file that can be happen, and that's the more natural way, because when we go to the real world environment, we have very complicated, very complex problems to solve. Even we don't know how to solve this thing. So what you do, you analyze the problem and you break down it into small pieces. Then it will easy to solve that. So what you do when you implement, you take separate classes for those small pieces. So that is why I told you in a particular program, we can have multiple classes. But one main class should be there. One main class, only one main class. So at the end, you do the operation in one particular class and then you pass that to the main class to print that thing. Every output should go through that main class. Same way, in each and every class, we have a method. So if you take this class, you know inside the class, we have a method. Then if we have multiple classes, we have multiple methods. In each class, we have a method inside. So that's the thing. But for that also, we should have a main method. Most probably inside the main class, we can create the main method and all outputs of other classes, other methods should be come to that main class. So here we are practicing these codes. We are understanding how these things are working. So we took only the main class and main method. So I just want to explain the background. Otherwise, you will think like we have only one class in a particular file and one method. No, that's not. Just to practice, we use this method. Right. So I hope you got my idea. So let's quickly start the code. So now we are inside our main class and we are going to develop the main method public static void main. String args. Right. So now we have the main class and the main method. So now I'm going to show you how to work with user inputs. So user input is an advanced concept. It is not like usual variables, calculations. User input is something advanced. So Java can handle both simple things and advanced things. To handle advanced things in Java, we have something called libraries. So Java already has included some advanced libraries. Whenever we use those concepts, we can call that library to come and perform. For an example, so when we do an advanced calculation, when we draw graph using Java, when we take inputs, so we have some libraries. මේ libraries කියලා කියන්නේ students මේ Java වල තියෙන පොඩි rooms. ඒ කියන්නේ මේ room එකක් ඇතුලේ තියෙන්නේ අර ඒ දේ perform කරන්න ඕන code එක. දැන් inputs handle කරනවා කියලා කියන්නේ complicated වැඩක්. ඒ complicated දේ develop කරන්න lines 1000ක් විතර ලියන්න වෙනවා. That's difficult. So what Java has done for that thing, they have developed that code and they have included that in that room. We are not going to take that code from that room. We just ask the room name. අපි රූම් එකේ නමට කෝල් කරපු ගමන් ඒ රූම් එකේ නම ඇතුලේ අර බන්ඩල් එකම තියෙනවා. එතකොට අපිට ඕනම complicated දෙයක් ඒකට related handle කරන්න පුළුවන්. So that is what we call as libraries. මොකද Java කියලා කියන්නේ පොඩි දෙයක් print කරන්න, calculate කරන්න විතරක්ම පාවිච්චි කරන language. Java කියන්නේ හරි වාෆ් අඳින්න පුළුවන්, advanced calculations කරන්න පුළුවන්, user inputs ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ කියන්නේ ගොඩාක් ලොකු scope එකක් තියෙන programming language එකක් තමයි Java කියන්නේ. හැබැයි ඒ වගේ advanced දේවල් කරනකොට ඒකට අදාළ library එක call කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒක call කරන්නේ නැතුව මේක support කරන්නේ නැහැ ඒ function එක කරන්න. So that is why we have libraries in this programming language. So now, as I told you, if you want to handle user inputs, first of all, you have to call that library. Now you're going to learn a new thing. So when you call a library, always you have to write it before the class and at the very beginning. Most of the time, we take first 2 to 3 lines to write the library. So you have to import. It's there in your install file. You have to import that from those files. So you can write the word import because we are going to import the library and write java.util scanner. Right. So this is the library name. And this is how you call it. Because you're importing that thing, you have to write the word import. You're going to import a Java library. So you have to write it like this. And this is the library name. So exactly write this sentence like this. Otherwise, it will give you an error. So now save the code. And the second thing is, as soon as you imported the library, you have to create an object for that. So how you create an object, copy this library name and paste it here. And then you can give a name for this object. So when I ask you to give a name, you have the freedom to give whatever the name you want as a single word. So in this case, I'm going to give the name as ABC. And then you have to write the word new because you're going to create a new object. And then here you write system.in. So this is the way we create a new object for this particular library. දැන් මෙතනදි වෙන්නේ library එකට call කරනවා. එයාට කියනවා එන්න. එයාව use කරන්න නම් අපි එයාටම කියලා object එකක් හදන්න ඕනේ. එහෙම නැතුව එයාව use කරන්න බෑ. මෙන්න මෙහෙම තමයි object එක හදන්නේ. මෙතන ඔයාට වෙනස් කරන්න පුළුවන් එකම තැන මෙන්න මෙතන. ඔයා හදන object එකට ඔයාට නමක් දෙන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් මෙතන ඔයා කැමති නමක් දෙන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි single word එකක් විදියට දෙන්න. Otherwise, it will give you an error. So this is the library and this is the name. Here you have to write the word new. මොකද මේ new කියන word එක ඔයාගේ code එක දැක ගමන් එයා දන්නවා දැන් අලුත් object එකක් create කරන්න තමයි හදන්නේ. system.in කියන්නේ system එකට inputs ගන්න තමයි අපි මේ object එක create කරන්නේ. So now we develop the basic fundamental. So now you can ask question from user because If you want to take an input from user, before that you have to ask a question. User ගෙන් inputs ගන්න කලින් ඔයා එයාගේ මොකක් හරි question එකක් අහන්න ඕනේ. question එකක් අහන්න නැතුව user දන්නේ නැහැ එයා මොනවද input කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා. So this is the print system.out.println. So you know, if you want to show a question, a sentence, an output on the screen, you usually use system.out.println. So here you can write this thing and I'm going to ask a question. So let's take enter a number. So I'm going to ask a number from user. Right. So now we can see the output. Still we have few things to add, but before that I would like to check the output and then quickly go to the next step. So now to check the output, what y'all can do, y'all can open the command prompt. In command prompt, type cd because first of all, before you run all these codes, you have to change the location. So you can go to the desktop or documents where you created your Java folder, and then you can copy paste the path. I told you how to do that. You can open that folder and then here you can copy the path. So in my operating system, I can quickly drag and drop the folder to paste the path. Right. So this is the path. Then you can press enter. So now you can compile the code. So when we convert this English-like instructions to 0 and 1, we have a two-way process. First we compile and then we execute. Type JavaC, keep a one space, and then paste the class name and type Java. No errors. You can execute. How you execute? Java space class name. Only the class name. So now you can see we have the question on the screen. But if we suppose to take inputs from user, this should display an empty line with the cursor. But it is not here. So now you have to do that thing. How you do that? You can go to the next line and then you can write give me a second. So just after the question, you're going to create a line with the cursor. So to create that, you need this object. That is why you created that object here. So you can copy paste the object and then type dot. And then you should type the word next because we are going to clear the next line just after the question as the empty line. you can write next, and then you have to think about what will be the output that y'all, what will be the input that y'all are taking. So in this case, we are asking a number. So if it is a number, you know it's most probably an integer. So if it is an integer type, you have to write int like this. So this is for integer type inputs. So if you are taking string type value, we have a word called line. If it is float, we have to type float. If it is double, we have to type double just after the word next. And then you can write round brackets. Right. So now we can see the output. Java, C, not ABC. Copy the class name and then paste it here. Right. Now you can see the difference. So now we have the question. Just after the question, we have an empty line. So you can write number 5 or whatever the input. So this is how we develop inputs. So I'll give you 2 to 3 minutes to quickly write the code and get the output, and save all your screenshots of output in a folder. In the last lecture, I'll ask you to share all those things with me. So I'll give you 2 to 3 minutes to quickly do the code, save the code, open the command prompt and run and give me the output. Right. So hope you all have done the activity. So what you can do is you can take inputs for these kind of things. So now I'll show you a small calculation with this. So now I took this thing, and again I want to ask the second number after the first thing. So I'm going to display my second question. Enter the second number. Question. Second, enter the first number and then enter the second number. To get the answer, again, I'll take this object, and then for that, so I write it like this. Same thing. You can use the same object for all inputs. So now if you want, you can do a small calculation. So I'll show you the output first, then we all can think about how to convert this code to a small calculation. Java C, and then the file name, Java, the class name. So first I ask the first number, so I'm going to add number 4. Enter the second number, I'm going to add number 5. So now I want to add these two together and I want to print the output. So now you have to think on this question. So now this is where user typed the first number. This is where user entered the second number. So this line holds the user input. We wrote this line to hold the user input. If we can pass this value to a variable, then we can easily use that variable in the calculation. So this is an integer type. You know, we ask in type value. So then you can take a variable like this and you can pass this value to that. So you know this is the line we created to take a user input. So this is where we create user input. We pass that value to this variable. So something like this. So we have a container. That container's name is A. We label it as A. And now user entered number 5 on that empty line. We pass that value to this container. So wherever you see A, it is number 5 because we pass whatever the input entered by user to that container. We do this thing because we are going to do a small calculation. For the second number also you can do the same thing. So in this case, I'm going to take B as the variable. So yes, we are going to pass that value. So here we have a container. So we created two containers to put the numbers entered by user. So the first number we'll enter here. So we pass that value to this container. And the second number we'll enter here. So we pass that value to this container. So then we can use this container's name to do the calculation. So that is what we are doing. So what you are going to do, you are going to add these two together. So this is your calculation. So now you know you want to print this thing. So what you are going to do, you are going to get another variable called sum. So here what you do, you add these two. So let's assume user entered number 5 for first space. So then we pass that value to A. So wherever we see A, it is not A, it is number 5. So we have a number 5 here. So then second time, user entered number 4. So assume like that. So then it will pass that value to this variable. So here we have number 4 because here we have b. So now we are going to add these two together. 5 plus 4, you know the answer is 9. So we are going to pass that 9 to another variable. See, to do pass values, do calculations, pass those things to output. So this will make our life very easy. So now we created another variable. It is sum. So we pass this value to this container. So number 9. So now the printing process and the calculation process is easy. So what you are going to do, you are going to take another print because you're supposed to print this. Here you are going to write the output is the summation of A plus B is sum. Or else you can write it like this. So you can write double quotations here, then it will print this part. And then I'm going to add the real values. Instead of writing A and B, I'm going to replace the value. And again, something like this. So let's see. We'll check the output, and if any errors, we can correct. Java C, the class name with no errors. Enter the first number. So I'm going to enter number 4. Enter the second number, number 5. So you can see the summation of 4, 5 is 9. So let's correct this thing. The summation of, let's keep a space here. A, we want to write plus. This plus is just to print. Right. So now we'll see the output. When you do a small modification, again you have to compile and interpret. Sorry. 3 this time. Second number 2. The summation of 3 plus 2 is 5. So this would be the answer. So like that. So now you know how to work with user inputs. So I'll give you quickly 2 minutes to quickly practice this code. And I need your output. Please save all your screenshots to a folder and bring all those things to the coming class. I'll check your outputs on that class. Right. So hope you all have completed this thing. So this is how we usually handle user inputs. So you can add this thing for everything. So you can ask a name, and then you can ask a salary, you can ask any other questions, and you can do your code, right? So let's take something different. So this time I'm going to ask different type user input. So I'll use the same code. So this time um, I'm going to erase this thing, and you can keep this thing here because whenever you import the library, you want to create an object for that. So now I'm going to show you how to handle a name, a string value, because with our previous example, we discussed how to handle an integer, how to handle a number. So what I'm going to show you now is how to handle a string value, a word, sentence, something like that. Right. First of all, you should ask a question. System.out println, and then you can ask a question. So this time I'm going to ask, enter your name, something like this. So now just after the question, you should display empty line with a cursor. So how you do that? You have to take the object and then dot. You can write the word next. And then for string values, you use the word line. So student, we don't have like specific uh, thing for these string values, integers in the whole subject. දැන් ඔගොල්ලෝ දන්නවා අපි data types වල මේක define කරේ string කියලා type කරලා. හැබැයි මෙතන අපි use කරන්නේ line කියන word එක. ඒක තමයි මේ programming language එකේ තියෙන diversity එක. අපි එකම දේ define කරන්න එක එක තැන්වල ක්‍රම කීපයක් පාවිච්චි කරනවා. එක තැනේ හැටියට තමයි මතක තියාගන්න ඕනේ. දැන් සාමාන්‍යයෙන් variable එකක් data type එකක් එක value එකක් දෙනකොට අපි එක විදියක් input එකක් ගන්නකොට define කරන්නේ තව විදියක් එකම දේ. input එකක් විදියට string value එකක් නම් ගන්නේ line කියලා තමයි එකක් නම් ගන්නේ int කියලා දෙන්න ඕනේ මෙහෙම. එතකොට double කියන එක නම් ගන්නෙ මෙහෙම. float කියන එක නම් මෙහෙම. ඒකේ first letter එක capital වෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒ වගේම දැන් integer කියන එක int, string එකක් නම් line, ඔන්න ඔය වචන ටික මතක තියාගන්න ඕනේ. අනිත් ඒවා එක. මේ තියෙන්නේ අපි හදපු object එකේ නම. එතකොට මේ තියෙන්නේ next කියන word එක. දැන් next කියලා type කරන්නේ ඊළඟ line එක empty කරන්න. I hope you got what I'm saying. And then you can go to the next line. So let's try to take another input. System.out println. Enter your age. So you know age is a number and it is an integer number. You can take the object dot next. For numbers we use int and you know it is an integer. And third time I'm going to ask enter your weight, something like this. So I'm going to take the type next. So you know weight has some decimal points. So if you have decimal points, you always take the data type as float. දැන් මෙතන ඔයාට දෙන්න පුළුවන් එකම වර්ඩ් එක මේක. හැබැයි ඒකත් ඔයා මෙතන ඩිෆයින් කරලා තියෙන්න ඕනේ. මෙතන යාව ඔබ්ජෙක්ට් එකක් විදියට ඉන්ට්‍රොඩියුස් කළා තමයි ඔයාට මෙතන ආපහු එයාව යූස් කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඊට පස්සේ dot next කියන එක දෙනවා, float කියන එක දෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ round brackets දෙන්න තියෙන්නේ. අපි තව එකක් ගමු. system.out println. This time I'm going to ask salary. What is your current salary? Right. For that also, ABC next. So for salary, we usually have decimal places, decimal points. With that, we maintain a very lengthy number. ගොඩක් වෙලාවට salary එකක් කියන්නේ ඉලක්කම් 5ක් 6ක් 7ක් වගේ එන salary එකක්. numbers ගොඩක් තියෙනවා. ඒ වගේ numbers ගොඩක් එනකොට අපි double කියන එක තමයි use කරන්නේ. මොකද දශම ස්ථානක් තියෙන හින්දා. එතකොට double කියන එක මේ විදිහට දෙන්න පුළුවන්. right. දැන් මට ඕනේ මේ ඔක්කොම variables වලට assign කරලා ලස්සනට print එකක් දෙන්න. මම එතකොට මේකට හරියන variable එක define කරනවා. දැන් මෙතන මම ගන්නෙ string value එකක්. දැන් ඔයා මේක තේරුම් ගන්න ඕනේ. මේක හරි ලස්සන concept එකක්. මෙතන මම දෙන්නේ string කියලා. දැන් ඔයා අහුවොත් ඇයි මං එහෙම දෙන්නේ කියලා. දැන් string right. දැන් මෙතන ඇත්තටම දැන් මෙතන concepts දෙකක්. මෙතනින් මං කරන්නේ user ගෙන් input එකක් ගන්න එක. user ගෙන් input එකක් ගන්නකොට ඔයා හිතන්න ඕනේ එයා type කරන්නේ මොන විදියේ දෙයක්ද. දැන් නමක් ඇහුවොත් එයා වචන දෙකක් type කරයි. ඒ වගේ අවස්ථාවක type එකේ value එකක් user input එක ඇතුළේදී අපි line කියන වලින් තමයි define කරන්නේ. ඒ දේම අපි variable එකක් එක්ක පාවිච්චි කරද්දී දැන් මේක variable එකක් input එකක් නෙමෙයි මෙතන තියෙන්නේ. මේ variable එකක් එක්ක පාවිච්චි කරද්දී ඔයා string කියන word එක තමයි දෙන්න ඕනේ. දැන් මෙතනත් මම එහෙම දෙයක් කරන්න යන්නේ. දැන් age එක කියන්නේ int. දැන් එතනදී මෙතන මං int එක define කරේ මේ විදියට I capital මොකද මං input එකක් එක්ක මෙන්න මේ ටිකේ handle කරන්නේ. හැබැයි මේක variable එකක්. variable එකක මම define කරන්නේ මේ විදියට. දැන් මෙතන float එකක්. float එකක් අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් define කරන්නේ මේ විදියට. F simple. දැන් මෙතන double. ඔන්න ඔහොම තමයි වෙන්නේ. දැන් මම storage boxes 4ක් හදනවා. පළවෙනි storage box එක මේකේ නම name. right? දාන්න පුළුවන් string type එකේ value විතරයි. user ගේ නම එයා type කරාම මම මේකට දානවා. තව contain එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒකේ නම age. contain එකට දාන්නේ user type කරන age එක. මෙහෙම variables හදන්නේ ඔයාගේ code එකේ මේ user enter කරන inputs පාවිච්චි කරන්න ඕන හින්දා. මොකද මට දැන් උවමනාවක් තියෙනවා මේ ඔක්කොම ටික අරගෙන ලස්සන sentence එකක් print කරන්න. දැන් මම කරන්න හදන්නේ system.out print ln. So I'm going to print something like this. First, I'm going to take the name and then plus. I'm going to type the word is and then plus. Here the age. I want the age. Years old. the salary of again, I'm going to take the name is, you can take the salary. And again, I need the name. Weight is, yeah, that's it. So let's see if any errors we can. I'm going to take all these values and I want to print one output. Right. First, compile. No errors. Right. Enter your name. Let's take Amal. Enter your age. 23. Weight. Current salary. Something like this. Right. So now you can see Amal is 23 years old. The salary of Amal is 140,000 and Amal is weight 45. So you can see I took all these entered value and nicely printed one single output. So if you have that kind of intention, so usually we take these inputs for this kind of, because we know we need to handle all these things in a particular code. Because of that, we use all these things, right? So I give you 2 to 3 minutes to quickly write the code and get the output. I'll break down this to 2, then you all can see it, right? Quickly do this and get ready. Run the code, take a screenshot and keep it now folder. I'll check that out. Hope you all received the output. So if it is not, if you haven't received the output, please bring your error or whatever the screenshot to the next class. So then I can discuss about the error and all. So this is the thing actually I wanted to explain and I wanted to discuss today about inputs. So you have to make sure you're importing the library, creating object, and then ask the question, and then create that empty line with the cursor to take the input. So when you work with user inputs, those are the three things you have to consider. And then you can develop the code. If it is a calculation, you can assign that value to a particular variable, and then you can use that variable in order to do your thing. So like that, you can develop inputs. So this is the way we use inputs in everywhere. Even if I take ATM, so in ATM also, this is the way it handles all input. So please practice this thing, and you can apply this thing for any particular thing, for calculation, for operators, for decision, for switch case, for loop, for everything you can handle this. First you can ask a question, and then you can take number, you can use that number to do your process. Right, so I hope you got an idea about how to work with this platform. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you, I'm going to guide you for your continuous assessment, because in my previous lesson, in my previous lecture, which we have conducted on Saturday morning, I have discussed about the continuous assessment, about the internet technology. So in this part, I'm going to discuss about the continuous assessment and the areas that I'm going to touch for object-oriented programming. So let's start our document. Right. Hope you all can see the screen. Right. So for your continuous assessment, for your CAT assignment, so we will give 25 MCQ questions. So these are the number of questions I will give you for your CAT examination. So MCQ in the sense, we will give you the question, and we will give you 4 answers. All 4 answers are not correct. Only one answer is correct. You have to read the question, and accordingly you have to pick the most suitable correct or incorrect answer. Because sometimes we ask to select the incorrect option. In that case, all other 3 options are correct and only one option is incorrect. You have to choose only one incorrect answer. In the other hand, if I ask you to choose the most appropriate, the correct answer, you have to select one particular answer from given four. So that is the nature of uh, object-oriented programming. Not only object-oriented programming, for all MCQs, we will follow the same thing. So now, first you have to understand the concept of object-oriented programming. So what these three letters stand for? So these three letters stand for object-oriented programming. So why we do object-oriented programming? Because we want to take real-world solutions for real-world problem. So that is why we use object-oriented concept. So in this concept, we use a concept to understand what is a class. So class is a blueprint for creating object. Blueprint in the sense, let's take a mold. So you put something into mold and you create same thing using that mold. Mold එකක් කියන්නේ පොඩි අච්චුවක්. ඒ අච්චුවට ඔයා මොනවා හරි දාලා ඒකෙන් output එක විදිහට එන්නේ එකම විදියේ දේවල්. ඒ එකම විදියේ දේවල් produce කරන mold එකට තමයි අපි class එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ. So in technical word, we called it as a blueprint for creating object. And then please go through the term called object we have discussed. So object is one instance of a class. So if I take the same example, so if you take mold to produce instance in a class, let's assume we have one thing from that, we called it as an object. So the technical term is one instance of a class we consider as an object. And then you should understand the word new. So recently we used this word new to create a new object. Most of the time when you create a new thing, new object, new class, new thing, you use the word new. So when your computer sees this word or a term new, your computer know, now I have to deal with a new thing. Might be a object or whatever the new thing. And then to create, yeah. So if I ask you how you print hello on the screen, so this is the way we do that. System.out println inside round brackets, inside inside double quotations, you write this thing. So this is how you print something on the screen. And if it is a number like each, no need to print, no need to put double. And if it is a single character, you can write single quotations like this. So these are the things you should consider when it comes to these printing methods, giving outputs. So what y'all are doing, y'all are type system.out println, write round brackets. If it is a string, you write double quotations, and inside that you can write the content. If it's a number, integer, decimal point, whatever the thing, if it is a number, no need to put double quotations. But if it is a string value, I mean, if it is a character, one single character, you can write just single quotations. And then we have discussed something called data types, right? So we call a technical name for these data types, that is primitive data type. So when you see this word, don't get confused with that. because primitive data types we use for same data type. There's no difference in between these two. So if I ask you what are the data types you know, integer, we have double, and then float, then we have string, then we have long, then we have short, then we have char for characters. So like that, we have different types of data type. So I hope you all know about this thing. Boolean also there. So there'll be a small MCQ question based on that. Please go through these data types and understand what are data types. If I ask you to pick the option which is not a data type, you should be able to do that. And then if I ask you a question like this, so what is the purpose of having a method in your class? So the answer is you define behavior of the class. So if you remember, when we discussed the same thing with our very first few lectures, I discussed when you convert a real world problem into a software solution, the first thing that you all are doing is you take that problem and then you try to understand the characteristics and behaviors. So if characteristics and behaviors are not there, we can't consider it as an object. So behavior is the action, the activity they perform. Later, we convert that behavior into what? Into method. So method is behavior. So method always talking about the behavior. So if I take a very practical code, so if you remember, when we implement the code, we write the class first. Inside the class, we write the method. So inside the method, we write system.out.println, calculation, operators, comparisons, repetitions. We write everything inside the method because that's the behavior, because it will work and it will give you the output. So make sure to go through the definition of method. There'll be a question based on that most probably. And if you remember, we have something called OOP concepts. We call this as OOP principles, and then we consider this as the pillars of OOP. The four OOP concepts are um, inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation, abstraction. So those are the four things. Please go through that thing. And what you mean by inheritance? So when it comes to inheritance, so inheritance is in this programming language, as I told you with my previous explanation, we have multiple classes in our code. And some classes comes inside one particular class. It's like we have something called parent classes and child classes. So the thing is, child classes can inherit things from parent classes. We called it as inheritance. And then we have something called encapsulation. So encapsulation in the sense your particular code wrap everything into one single unit and cover up. So if you take your class name, inside that class, you have everything. Everything inside there, and we put a cover as a class. And then we have something called polymorphism. So polymorphism in the sense, your code shows only the essential things, not unnecessary details. We called it as polymorphism. So then we have abstraction. Abstraction also something like this. We only abstract the important things and then we reduce all unnecessary things. So please go through these four things and understand the basic concepts. There will be a question based on that. It will test whether you have understanding about these four concepts, just the names of these things. And then as I told you, if I ask you what is encapsulation, so the answer would be encapsulation is um, binding data and methods together. So you put everything together and you put a wrap, you put a cover. So we called it as encapsulation. And if I ask you about inputs, what will be the library used for inputs? So you know that because we did that thing in today. So we use the scanner library. So if we want to take an input, we always use something called scanner. Scanner is the library name. And then please go through what is the polymorphism. So when it comes to this computer programming, these are the four principles we follow when we write codes and everything develop for this concept. So polymorphism is a particular object can have many forms at a given time. So I always give very simple examples for students to understand for their easiness. So a student can do several things at the same time. So they can watch the recording, they can check Facebook status, they can do some WhatsApp messaging at the same time. They are doing multiple tasks. So that ability we put under polymorphism. So the correct and the straightforward definition is a method to perform different actions based on the object. An object can focus a method. That method can do several things at the same time. So then I'll give you a few examples for data types so you should be able to handle that. If a number, short number with a decimal point, you probably choose float as the data type. 57.5, 45.7, like measurements for those kind of things, weight, height, you can use float as the data type. And if it is a name, if it is two words, two or more words, you probably go for string as the data type. If it is a letter like N, A, B, C, some symbols like dollar sign, those kind of things, for those kind of things we use character as the data type. And then for whole numbers like your age, count, we use integer as the data type. And if we have true, false, yes, no as the inputs, you most probably go for Boolean data type. So please pay your attention on that. There'll be a question on few examples and then we will give you chance to choose the most appropriate data type. So please go through. Right. Data types. Yeah. So if I ask you how you write the main method, this is the way you write that. Public, static, void, main within bracket, sorry, string args, right? So this is how you write main method. So how you find this as the main method, because here we can see the word main. That is why we consider this as the main method. Yeah. Then please go through the print statement. There'll be a question based on that. For an example, I'll give you the system.out.println statement and I ask you to choose the correct output. So you have to check on that. So yeah. So if I ask you how to create a small object, so usually first you have to write the class and then you can give a name for the object, write new, again the class. If you remember when we write, so we wrote flowers, cars in the garage, so as a class and objects. So if I ask you about your coding environment, so what is the tool that you all are using? You all are using Notepad++ to type the code, and you all are using command prompt to check the output, and you all are using Java as the programming language. So that understanding should be there. Right. So those are the things you should focus in order to write answers. For your all MCQ questions, please go through that and make sure that y'all are referring the documents, referring everything in order to get the full marks. So that understanding should be there. So before I quickly wind up the session, I have a small thing to share and discuss. Most probably few questions can be there for the continuous assessment from that thing. So I decided I'll quickly go through that. Yeah, so that's about access modifiers. Yes, hope y'all can see the content. So in this compute, don't need to focus all these contents, just understand what is this and what's the purpose of having this thing. So when it comes to access modifiers, we refer few terms, few types. Access in the sense someone try to access the code or segment in a code. So that accessibility, we can go through few levels. We have something called private, default, protected, public. So if it is public, anyone can access. But if it is private, it is restricted. Only few people can access who has permission. Default in the sense we have something called packages. Inside that package, the people can access. And protected in the sense it restricted, it protected from other access. So these are the main types of access modifiers. So if you remember, when we write the main method, we use public static void main, because that main method is public for every method. Because whatever the thing we do in our code, we directly or indirectly call to that section. So we called it as public. And when it comes to private, it is restricted. So it's restricted in the sense only few people can access. So here, if it is public, within the class can access, within the package can access, outside package access, and subclasses access. Everyone has the access if it is public. But if it is protected, you can see within a class, within a package, subclass can access, but outside people can't. When it comes to default, these two have access within the class, within the package. But these two don't have access, subclasses and outside. Private in the sense it's very restricted, within the class only access. So the outside people can't access to this platform if we go for this method. So these are the four things that I want to discuss. So this is something very uh, deep discussion. So before I wind up, that is what I wanted to start. So I hope you got a very clear idea about what we have covered today and what we have discussed today. So today I wanted to discuss about the print statement and few things about your continuous assessment. So please go through your continuous assessment and do it very in a good manner, because I have discussed everything in the class. And please practice print statement, and if any errors, if any doubts, bring your all doubts and everything to the next live class. So with this, I'm going to finish the class. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining. Goodbye and have a nice day.